Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Timoni Shasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum. Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chiktu Jingi Lu Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chiktu Jingelo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Sangye Chedan Soge Chanam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Gim Drola Pinchre Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Soge Chanam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Pinchre Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Soge Chanam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinso Gibe Sonam Gi Drola Pinchre Sangye Druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Yesterday, we were talking about the first two lines of the prayer of taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. As we say in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. This is what we have seen yesterday and the day before. So today we have the next part, which is through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we will go through that today. One important point that we have also seen yesterday we were talking about the meaning of Dharma. And we saw that the actual true Dharma is the inner path of transformation. The teachings that we receive, the method that we have, the instructions that we have are part of the Dharma, but they are there actually as a support for the actual real Dharma. Okay? And it's important for us to remember this again and again, because there is the danger of us thinking that the tools that we have, the actual instructions, are the actual Dharma. That just because I am inside the car, I am going in the right direction. And that's not necessarily happening. Okay? And in the teachings of Lord John, there are two examples that have been given in the vows, in the commitments, in which one says, Ha dudu mi up, and tukcheng sepang, which means the first one says, do not transform the gods into demons. And the second say, do not eat poisoned food. What does that mean? Do not transform the gods into demons. This is just a metaphor. That means do not take something that is very pure and transform it into something very impure. For example, and it's the precise aspect of this meaning, the precise meaning is that be careful not to start doing spiritual practices that are the tools that we access, that have the objective to make our selfish less, to develop more patience, more love, compassion, and so on. And instead, because I know few things, I start feeling that I am superior to others, I start acting with arrogance, I start being more aggressive maybe, and so on. So in the moment that the spiritual practices that are there to help us to eliminate our selfishness, instead of that, it becomes something that we feel that we are even more superior and we become more selfish and so on, then we are transforming the gods into devils. Okay? Another way of transforming the god into devils that we need to be very careful is always to remember the true meaning of Dharma is the inner process of transformation. The so-called religion or the spiritual tradition and the lineage within one spiritual tradition are the means for the Dharma, are the means for this spiritual path, are not the actual final objective. But sometimes what happens is that we remain extremely attached to the tradition, to the formal teaching, let's call it like that. And then we forget the essence. We forget that actually it is all there in order for us to follow an inner path. So, like sometimes I was talking to some friends and people I know, and I was asking them, okay, what is your tradition? Oh, I am Gelupa, for example, no? And then you ask, okay, why you are Gelupa and not Nyingmapa, for example? Oh, because Gelupa is better. Why? And most of them don't know the answer. So very often, we simply follow a tradition and we think that our tradition is the best, based on a very simple human fact of the I and the my is always better than the others. That's all, And it's dangerous. Like, there is this Tibetan proverb which it says, the field of the neighbor, or like the garden of the neighbor, is always more beautiful. It's always better. And our own son is always right. No? In Italy, I don't know if you have in English this saying, but in Italian they have a very similar saying which says, the grass of the neighbor is always more green. So the Tibetans, they added another part on it and saying, the grass of the neighbor is always more green, and one's own children are always right. It doesn't matter if they make mistakes or not, in front of others they are right. We are going to protect them. No? So somehow similar to that, we could say our own religion is always the best, and our own tradition is always the best, and the other one is wrong, And this is danger, because if we become very much attached to our own tradition, to our own context and the religion and so on, then at a certain point we can even go against others. We can enter into a process of aversion, into a process of feeling superior to others, and even into going to aggression and so on, in order to protect the institution, in order to protect the tradition, and we lose completely the path. So, like if someone, do I have a tradition that I follow? Sure. Do I follow Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings as being Gelupa? Yes. Within the whispered lineage of Ganden, as a following through my guru, Lama Ganchen, and so on? Yes. And if someone asks, why am I following the Gelupa tradition and not the Nyingma or the Kargyo or the Sakya or the Zen or whatever? Simply because that's the tradition that I met, that for me works perfectly. I have read and I've met a little bit of the others. I have nothing against anyone, but this one is working for me. So I feel no need to go around and try to look for other things when this is already working well for myself. But this doesn't mean that my way is the superior and the other way are inferior, or my way is right and the other ways are wrong. Because if we enter into this game, then this is the beginning of the end of our own path. Because then we get lost in the attachment of the tradition. We get lost in the attachment of the form, of the means, of the tool, and we forget the true reason. It's like saying my car is better than yours, but I forget that I need to use the car to go somewhere, And then I'm just going around and saying, oh, how nice is my car, and I want to prove that my car is better and complain that your car is not good enough. But I'm forgetting that the car is just a means to get somewhere. Get where? State of peace, of joy, of balance, of generosity, of love, free from selfishness, free from anger, miserliness, and so on. That's the main thing, If now we make a new tradition, everybody dressed as Minnie and Mickey Mouse, with the big black ears, and then we change clothes, and if it works, wonderful, I have no problem. If it really makes us, and it's a way that we are really able to have less anger and jealousy and pride and more wisdom and compassion, and it makes us more well and happy, wonderful. I have nothing against it, We can have the most incredible tradition. If it's not helping us to develop more generosity, more patience, more equanimity, more peace within ourselves, then it's not working for us. But just remember, we need to be careful not to be attached, too much attached to our own tradition, our own religion, our own way, my. The other way, the other example that was giving the teachings is said, do not eat poisoned food. Because food is something that is supposed to nourish us. But if the food is poisoned, it's going to harm us and maybe kill us. So it means do not make spiritual practices that are poisoned by selfishness, by attachment, by aversion, by our own mental defilements. Yeah, I can do 100,000 mantras, but if my intention is because I want to be the best of the class, showing that I am very good, that I did all the mantras, or I want to memorize the puja because I want to show that I'm the best in this and that, then I am eating poisoned food. So we need to be careful because it's very easy for us to poison food with our own selfishness and so on. Okay? So it's important for us to remember that we need to follow our path, and our path, it's the inner transformation of our defilements and developing our qualities. Also because the day we die, I don't think there is special pathway, Buddhist this way, non-Buddhist that way, Gelupa have special line, like when you go in the airport, there is special lines. Okay, Gelupa can get a special line to this way, and this doesn't exist. What we have when we die, it's our own self, with our own qualities, how much love I have, how much wisdom I have, how coherent I was during my life. That's the important thing. So, just to remember this, and this is a small introduction to what we will see now, which is the 6 perfections. Okay? So, as we say, through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. The essence of the path, the essence of the practice, it is condensed in what are called the development of the 6 perfections. which are not qualities that we need to gain, which are already perfect. Are qualities that we have, aspects that we have, that we need gradually to develop. That's why we say through the practice. The word practice by itself already means something gradual, a training. The prayer doesn't say, by gaining the qualities of the 6 perfections, may I reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. It's not like, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, please bestow upon me the 6 perfections, and through that I will help all sentient beings. That's not what it's saying. It's saying, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, with the Dharma, which is the path, and I will practice generosity, I will practice morality, I will practice patience, I will practice joyful effort, I will practice concentration, I will practice wisdom. And by perfecting these qualities, I will help others. There is a big difference, no? So this aspect of this is something that I need to do myself. And I'm sorry if sometimes I may be a little bit direct in this sense, because I was just remembering one time I was with a friend in Brazil. I was invited to go to talk in one place which was like a yoga center. And after giving some teachings there, and I talked, I think, also about the 6 perfections that day. And then one of the commentaries that came was, so nice, because somehow we expect people from the spiritual world, when coming to talk, just to tell us everything is beautiful, everything is nice, just think positive and all will go well. No? And you came here and you showed us that the path is possible, but it's not easy, and then we need to put effort. And, sure, it's more somehow nicer just to say to everybody, just think positive and everything will go wonderful. Suffering and conflicts are just an illusion, and then, just connect to the Buddhas, and the Buddha you will become. But it will be like cheating. And if I say to you, the path is easy and beautiful, it's beautiful, but it's not easy. If I say, everything is just nice and beautiful, I'm not sincere, So, when I talk about the 6 perfections, it's the practice. And I think it's fundamental to put things as they are. And it's through our own efforts. I can be the best friend of all the Buddhas. If I do not practice, I'm going to get nowhere. I can have all the Buddhas by my side say, yes, come on here, we love you, we wish you the best. Sure, they will give me some help, but if I don't put my own effort, I will get nowhere. It's like, have you ever tried to help someone that doesn't want to help himself? Even if we have the best tools, the best context to help, we cannot help. So, when we talk about the path is mainly developing our inner qualities. And we do this through a process of training. So, how we do this training, how we do this practice? Making it somehow simple, it is like that. We need gradually, one step after the other, to get little bit beyond our own zone of comfort, and then get used to it. Then I get again a little bit beyond the zone of comfort, then I get used to it. Then I get a little bit beyond the zone of comfort, and then I get used to it. And like this I move forward. So for example, we start the 6 perfections, we start with the practice of generosity. And the word perfection actually means 6 qualities that we need to perfect. So the first of them is generosity. So how do we perfect generosity gradually? We need to share with others material things, share with others our love and our care emotionally. We need to share with others protection. give to others spiritually. But as we will see, we have not yet, at least for me, and I think for many of us, we have not yet completed the perfection of generosity. We are generous, but until a certain level. Then if we are requested to be generous beyond that level, then we feel uncomfortable. No? And sometimes even we like to give things to others and they have a string attached to it, no? Like sometimes we give, we think we are generous, but we are giving and there is an instruction manual how you should use what you get. And then at the same time, it's like if you don't use correctly, then after you want it back, okay, I give to you, but you must do this and that and so on. I did that once with Rinpoche. I remember very clearly, it was many years ago, I think it was 95, we were in Malaysia, 1995. And then Rinpoche was listening to some teachings I had in my iPod, I suppose. I don't know exactly where it was, in the computer, whatever. And then I was giving to Rinpoche, so Rinpoche wanted to listen, but Rinpoche didn't like the earphones that were going like this, and he also was not comfortable the ones that you put inside the ear like that. So I gave to Rinpoche, I found, which was quite difficult to get at that time, the earphones that it goes from behind. It was difficult to find that earphones at that time. So I bought one pair, I gave to Rinpoche, and I said, Rinpoche, this is a present for you, but please don't give to anyone. Because, there is a very simple rule, which is, if someone gives me this book, who the book belongs to? To me, right? So one is mine. Can I do what I want with it? Yes, no? And Rinpoche shows us this very clear sometimes. Like, I saw different times that Rinpoche receives something, it becomes his, right? Then it takes like 10 seconds, and then he gives to someone else. And sometimes the person becomes really upset. But why? Your function of giving has been fulfilled. Now it's his. The only reason why he's giving is because it became his, It was given, so he can give. But our mind doesn't function in that way all the time, no? So I remember when I gave this earphone to Rinpoche, I said, Rinpoche, please don't give. And for many years, I think until a few years ago, I remember it was in his room there, kept there, even though he was not using it. No, he never gave to anyone. So, I even remember one time, a friend that happened the situation that went to someone else's house, opened the cupboard and the wardrobe and saw one cloth that was given by this person. And then look, and he said, oh, but these clothes, I have given it to you many years ago. I never saw you really wearing it. You are not making good use of it. I take it back. Boom. And took it back. Okay. So this is just to say that, sometimes we think we are generous, but our generosity has limits. Okay? Sometimes we give things with a string attached to it, and we give things, okay, but you need to make a good use of it. It's like this, it's like that. Sometimes we give and we are still attached after we give. Sometimes we give some things and we don't give to another thing. Sometimes we can able to give to some people, but not to others. Sometimes we are not giving, we are making business. I give this to you, but you must smile to me. If you don't smile enough to me, I'm not giving it anymore to you. I give this to you, but you must behave in that way. I'm buying your behavior. I'm not giving you anything, So when we talk about generosity, we need to see, until where can I truly share without any expectations, without any grasping at it? And then where I see that I'm comfortable with it, where I see where I am uncomfortable, where I'm not really able to share, but it's not something really beyond my abilities. And then I do it. I force myself to be generous on that level. And then after some time, it gets a little bit more natural. I get more used to it. Then I go a little bit beyond again. So we start by sharing more simple things. And slowly, we get to the level when we are able to share anything. Like the high realization of the perfection of generosity, the person is able to share anything without any attachment, even one's own body. For example, and this is interesting from another point of view also, it is said in many ancient texts of practitioners that were offering their own eyes. So what looked like was they had some sort of eye transplant at the time. So at least that's what they say in the text, that they will give their own eyes to a blind person, and they will put the eyes on the blind person, and the blind person will be able to see. So, independently of the fact of how they used to do this or not from the medical point of view, is the fact of being able to share even one's own eye. I remember one time we were in one teaching in India with thousands of people, and then there were 2 or 3 people that they need kidney transplant. So what they did was very beautiful. Nobody knew them really. They just made an announcement in the middle of all the teachings with 6,000 people there. Is there anyone who would like to help this person that he needs the kidney transplant like this, and like that? And in the middle of Dharma teachings, so everybody was inspired by the Dharma teachings and so on. So it came a list of people that were willing to. They made blood tests, and finally they had the donor of the kidney. No, there are different levels of what we are truly able to share. There are some things that is more easy, some things that is more difficult. We should not go right away to the very difficult part. We should start by sharing things that are more easy. And then slowly, maybe we are able to share more easy materially, but we are not so good sharing our time with others. Maybe we are able sharing in one way, but we are not able to listen. We are not able to give advices. We are not able to share our knowledge. So we need to see, where are our limits of sharing? And where each one of us, we have our own. And there where we see our limit of sharing, that's where we need to practice. Okay? The next practice that we need to do is the practice of morality. Then we practice patience. Then we practice joyful effort. Then we practice concentration, and then we practice wisdom. One very important part is that the path to enlightenment, it's something that it must be experienced and it must be practiced at every moment of our life. It's not something that is only in meditation or only when I go to the temple or the gompa, no? It is like in all the commentaries of meditation practices that I have seen, they always divide the practice into 2 parts. How to practice during meditation sessions and how to practice between meditation sessions. Normally, the time between meditation sessions shouldn't last much longer than 5-6 hours, maybe, Normally, in the case of many of us, the time between meditation sessions maybe lasts 2-3 weeks. We don't know. But anyhow, because in our case we meditate much less than in other contexts, we do not meditate that much, it becomes even more important to understand how to practice when we are not in meditation. Sure, it's very important to practice in meditation, but we also need to train ourselves when we are not meditating. So this is where the practice of the 6 perfections comes very handy. It comes very practical in this way. Okay? So remember that our path is into the development of these qualities. So it's by developing these qualities that I want to help others. That's why we say, through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach Buddhahood. So by that I will help other sentient beings for the benefit of other sentient beings. Okay? So now I would like just to see each one of the perfections one by one. Okay? Bene. One thing only I forgot. We practice the 6 perfections, and we could say that the whole path of enlightenment can be condensed within the 6 perfections, but on the basis of the 6 perfections, there is always the development of love, which is bodhicitta. On the basis of love for others, we practice the 6 perfections. Love and compassion, that's on the basis. Then on top of that, we practice generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom. Okay? So, the next part refers to the perfection of morality. The perfection of morality, actually, it's the ability of ourselves to maintain our commitments. There is a very clear difference between ethics and morality. Ethics is where we discuss what is right and what is wrong. Our own ethics is basically what we think that is right and what we think that is wrong, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. This is ethics. And we can stay for hours and for days and for months and maybe even for years discussing ethics. According the context, according the culture, according the situation, one thing is right, the other thing is wrong, and blah, blah. We can say hours, and maybe we may agree, we may not agree, and so on. This is another point. Ethics is a very important thing, but this is another point. The point here now is morality. Morality is our ability to keep our own commitments. It's our ability to cultivate what we know is good and to abandon what we know is wrong. I can have a wonderful ethics and a terrible morality. And I can have a terrible morality with a wonderful ethic. I can have a terrible ethics with a wonderful morality, which is not a good thing also. If I think in my ethics that whenever I see someone that is weak, I need to make him weaker. If I have this as I think this is the right thing to do, and I act in accordance, I am following what I think is right, but what I think is right is not good. So, morality, it goes beyond ethics because it's our ability to follow the ethics. It's our ability to keep our own commitments. And why do we need to have commitments? Why do we need morality? Because we are made out of habits. For example, why exists the commitment, I will not lie? Because lying harms ourselves and others, and because it comes spontaneously that we want to lie. There will be one moment or another moment that we will feel like, I want to lie. Oh, but I have a commitment not to. I shouldn't. So our morality is a way of protecting ourselves from our own behavior. And in that way, it is very precious because it helps us to follow a path that we know that is right. And I'm sorry to put in this way, but I feel sometimes that the more we go along with time, the weaker becomes the ability of people of keeping one's own commitments. Like if the word, what we say doesn't matter anymore, if I don't sign it, it doesn't mean anything. This is crazy. Because when we don't keep the commitments with ourselves, we lose the respect towards our own selves. We lose even our self-esteem. So keeping our commitments correctly, it's also a way of developing our own self-esteem. I will do it, which means I will do it. I will not do it. Even though I want so much, I will not do it. I make the commitment. And it's fundamental for us to have the ability to keep our commitments alive. Follow them. If there is a moment where we see that our commitment is not good anymore, we can give back our commitment. But not simply break the commitment because it's not comfortable enough. It's important for us to do commitment with small things, one at a time, not end up making big commitments. And one of the reasons why we take commitments is because it's a way of creating habits and breaking habits also. So, for example, there is one habit that many of us have, which is the habit of complaining. Complaining is a habit. And there is a very simple equation. The more I complain, the more I criticize, the more I complain, the more I am insatisfied. The more I am insatisfied, the more I suffer. The more I am grateful, the more I rejoice. The more I am satisfied, the more I am satisfied, the more I am happy. So, for example, complaining is a habit. And how do we do that? We make the commitment. I will not complain, or general or specific. I will not complain anymore about this situation. Because anyhow, I cannot change it. It is what it is. I need to put energy in the solution, not stay blocked with the problem, and it's useless to complain. So I will not complain anymore about it. Instead, I need to connect with the positive aspects, and I need to rejoice of the good things I have within it. So I make the commitment, I will stop complaining. I want to complain, I start saying something, change subject. Bite the tongue. You know? Why? Because I have a commitment, and my commitment is precious. I would not give it up for anything. So the more we are able to keep our commitments, the better morality we have. And it's important in a mundane level, it's important in a spiritual level. So there are also another way, which is we have, when we make a commitment, for example, there is like the commitment within the Lojong teachings. There are different vows, which I think that the most, from all the vow system which I know, one of the systems that adapt the most well to our modern times is the commitments that are inside the Lojong, the mind training teachings. They are like the 18 vows and the 22 advices, which are suiting very well to our modern time. And there is 2 vows there, for example, which says, do not talk about the faulty qualities of others, which in other words means do not criticize others. Okay. And the other vow, which comes just after, say, mind your own business. Do not think about others people's lives, basically. Shenchok kaya misamo. Shenchok others' side. Misam don't think about others people's sides. Which means, sure, if I need to listen to someone, I will listen carefully. If I need to help someone, I need to understand what is happening, and that's fine. But I don't need to know what's the color of the underwear that other people are wearing. I don't need to know what they are doing in their private life, what they are not doing, why if it's like this or if it's like that and this and that. I don't need to get into information that I have no use to have, no use for it. So I mind my own business. This is a vow. So when I start going, stop. When I start criticizing, no, I have a commitment. So the commitment is a way of protecting our own selves. Okay? And another aspect of commitment is when we make a vow and make a commitment, we can make it for whole life, or we can make it for a specific period of time. I believe that for most of us, in the times in which we live, it's better to make commitments for a specific period of time. So, I will not criticize others for the next hour. It's a beginner. Someone may say, oh, but that's too little. It's a beginning. Then when you finish the first hour, you say, okay, I will add another hour. Can I do it? Yes, I'm able to do it. Then slowly we add another hour. Then we are able to say, okay, then for the whole next day, I will not criticize others. If we're not able to keep the commitment for the next hour, how can we make the commitment for the whole day? So the commitments should be small and renewable. And then we can make commitments for 1 week, for 15 days, for maximum 1 month, I would say. From full moon to full moon, new moon to new moon, whatever. We make the commitment. It can be a commitment of body, like I will make every day 3 prostrations, or 10, or 20, or 100, or whatever. I will sit down and meditate every day for 10 minutes. I will smile more to people. I will be more gentle. I will not react with aggression. There are many different ways of vows that we can make. But if we start making the vows, and if we see that the vow of 1 month is too long, we have difficulty keeping it, then we make it for 15 days. Then we make it for a week. And when the week is finished, we renew it. Okay? So, this is important. I remember there were the vows that were given when in the tradition of Reiki. and all the vows start. Only for today, I will do this. And then the next day you repeat the same vow again. Only for today, I will do this. No? It's helping. Because when you make a vow for a long period of time, suddenly at a certain point it's difficult to keep the vow, and then what we do? Okay, if I break it now or if I break it 1 year after, what changes? Anyhow, it's the same because I have a long time to go still. So instead, if I go and I see I have only a few days left to keep my commitment alive, I'll make a special effort to keep it. So, for that reason, don't make too many commitments together. Very few commitments, and for a specific period of time. And another thing, we need to remember every day our commitments. Dress, put something of our clothes to remember the commitment. Write something on the phone. I don't know, do whatever to remember the commitments. Make a prayer, do something that remembers us of our own commitments. That's also important. Okay? So, this is very briefly the part that regards morality, which is a training. That's the important aspect that we need to understand also. Okay. So, after seeing morality, the next perfection, and I'm going to be very brief on them, the next is the perfection of patience. Patience is a very, very important quality. The definition of patience is our ability to not to react with aggression in front of an object of anger. Normally, in front of an object of anger, our natural attitude is to react with aggression. So patience is our ability to avoid reacting with aggression in front of an object of anger. It is still an object of anger, but I do not react with aggression. First, we need to develop the physical patience, which means we avoid reacting with aggression physically. Then verbal. We avoid reacting with aggression verbally. Then mentally. We avoid reacting with aggression mentally. These are the 3 levels of patience that we need to go through. And it is extremely important, even though now we don't go into details, but how the amount of harm that anger has on us, that anger as aggression have on ourselves and others, it's tremendous. For example, if there is someone near to us that is aggressive, out of anger, out of nervousness, because anger is different than nervousness sometimes. Okay? I can be nervous, but I'm not feeling the wish to harm anyone. But I still react with aggression. So when anyone is aggressive around us, it harms us. It makes like a bitter taste inside. And even though the person after some time come and say, oh, I am sorry, I didn't mean it, and so on, and even if we say, okay, I accept your apologies and it's fine, does it still remain some bitter taste or not? Yes. Then after some long time, without having any type of reactions like that, then that bitter taste can go away. But if after some time it happens again, it goes accumulating this bitter taste. And this can destroy friendships, it can destroy relationships, it can destroy so much that we build up. And sometimes one reaction with aggression can take years and a whole lifetime to heal, when we are able to heal. I have seen people that they have stopped talking to each other and they lived with total pain within each other in their own family because of a moment of aggression that happened between them. So we need to avoid it by every means. So again, we need to start with the small things and then slowly we go to the bigger levels. So first level is not reacting physically. Second, not reacting verbally. Third, not reacting mentally with aggression. Now, I knew one person that used to have a lot of anger, used to have a lot of reaction of aggression, and at a certain point understood that it was really harmful. So what he used to do is when he was in a situation and it was so on, he used to put his face inside water and shout. Which in a way is the fact that, okay, I think water is a bit dangerous. We can do with a pillow if we want. But what I mean is that we are not supposed to block our anger. But we are not supposed to react with aggression. Okay? We can go out running. We can make a meditation that helps us. We can do some breathing, Very simple things. There was one thing which was very nice. The other day came the children from the school here in the center, 5, 6 years old, very small children. And then there was a moment with them, and I said to them, that was difficult. I didn't have much time and so on, but one moment I just said to them, oh, kids, I want to tell you a secret to make them more interested about it. And then I said, do you ever get angry? And they said, yes. When you get angry, you do like this. You inhale, you take the anger, you do, and you put all the anger out. And then it goes away. Then a few days later, a mother of one of these kids came to me and she said that her daughter woke up in the morning and was a bit nervous, a little angry, like this. And then suddenly she saw this little daughter making like, and said, what is she doing? Oh, Lama taught me to do this. And then after some time she was calm and well, So there are things that we can do. There are different ways how we can deal with this difficulty that we have in the moment. Okay? But not react with aggression. That's very important for us. In the moment we react with aggression, then we create a whole cycle of things. It's like, if we take a lot of very dirty oil and we pour in a beautiful white cotton, it takes 1 second to pour it all on the cotton. It takes a lifetime to clean it. That's what we do with anger, with aggression. Even when we love the person that is aggressive, even when the person that is aggressive is not aggressive directly to us, it still harms us. So we cannot allow ourselves to have such type of reaction. That's why we need to say we need to practice. So gradually we train ourselves, one step after the other, not to react with aggression. And it's possible to change our behaviors, even if they are the worst kind. It's just, I remember, there was one disciple of Buddha, his name was Anguni Lamala. Anguni Lamala means the one that had a collar, like a necklace made out of human fingers. Because he had a life when he was a child, he was abused in different ways, he went through a lot of suffering, and somehow he had accumulated anger inside, and he ended up in a sort of a religion, someone that told him that in order for him to get out of his suffering, he needed to kill 1,000 people. And now I have some confusion if it's 1,000 or 100, but it doesn't matter really. I remember 1,000. That he needs to kill 1,000 people. So he had reached 999. And then he was walking in the woods and he found Buddha there. Now I get my last one. So he went to kill Buddha with his sword, running after Buddha. And then Buddha was walking very calmly. But it didn't matter how much he ran, he could never reach Buddha. And in one moment he was completely tired. And then he said to Buddha, oh, stop it, I am tired, I can never catch it, stop it. And then Buddha just looked to him and he said, I am not running, the one who is running is you. I am not moving, the one that is in constant movement is you. Meaning, I am out of samsara, I am not in the movement of suffering, of cyclic existence, you are the one that are constantly in this movement, no? And then he said, but what do you mean? And then Buddha started explaining to him, and Buddha was opened his heart, gave him love, and then he was telling him his story and opening all the suffering since he was a kid and what happened. And actually now Buddha was able to transform his mind. So he became a disciple of Buddha. He stopped killing people. And then there was a moment in the life of Buddha, and he could really transform his habits. No? And he was the most violent, aggressive person, and he became completely different. And this just connecting to this story, there was a moment for me which is very beautiful, in which he was together with Buddha walking, and there was a woman that was very sick. Actually, looks like she had a problem on giving birth, and she had a lot of pain, and there was some problem there. So the woman saw Buddha and asked Buddha to give her a blessing, and then to do healing on her. And then Buddha said, yes, but I'm not doing. And he looked to Angunilamala and said, oh, you do the blessing, you do the healing on her, you bless her. And he said, how can I bless this person? Who am I? I am just a terrible person that killed hundreds of people. How can I, bless anyone? And then he said, you just go there, put your hands on her, and you say, by the power of the truth, if it's true that I have killed hundreds of people out of my own ignorance, and today I am sorry for that, I regret upon what I did, and I act with love towards others. If that is true, may this lady be cured from her pain and disease. And by invoking the power of truth, the lady got cured, because he was saying something that was completely true. And this is I just take the opportunity within the story to say this, to invoke the power of truth on what is actually real true. It's a very powerful thing. When Rinpoche say, by the power of the truth, peace and bliss now and forever, it's not something just nice words. It's something that is very powerful. And the fact was that Angunilamala, he was able to transform himself, even though he was the most aggressive person that we could ever imagine. So, we are not as bad as Angunilamala. We are far from that. Where I think that we need to train the most is in the verbal aggression. For many of us, that's the most difficult point. So we need to train, wherever we are in front of an object of anger, not to react with aggression. Physically, verbally, mentally. And this is through that we go to the practice of patience. Okay? The next 3 perfections, I'm not going to go into details, otherwise we lose lunch and dinner. But we just touch them slightly. The next one is the perfection of joyful effort. The perfection of joyful effort is our ability to put energy in what is positive but not easy. So, for example, there is a meditation practice that we know that is very good for us, but it's not so easy. I put effort in it. Even though it's difficult, I keep doing it. I need to keep a diet. It's difficult. I keep it. I put an effort. When there is the difficult moment, I say, okay, but anyhow, I can do it. Come on. I put energy. So, to put energy in what is difficult, what is important but not easy, that's effort. That's joyful effort. And the definition by Shantideva of joyful effort, it says, Tsankangela, which means what is joyful effort, is to have joy in virtue. Is to have joy in what is virtuous, in what is positive, but not necessarily easy. Okay? So, is it easy to do the meditation every day? No, but I do it with joy. That's practicing joyful effort. So it's putting energy. It's much more important to have a lot of effort than to have a lot of conditions. Sometimes being very intelligent, for example, becomes an obstruction for our studies. Because a person that is very intelligent becomes lazy and say, okay, I can study at any moment, and then it never happens because it's always lazy and busy with distractions. The one that is not that intelligent and needs really to put effort, it's always there putting effort, and by the end of the day knows much more than the one that is much more intelligent. Not always, but often this happens. So, the fact is that we need to put effort, we need to put energy And this is a fundamental aspect in our path. Okay? If we look to anyone in history that have realized great things, spiritually, materially, mundanely, from an artistic way, political, it doesn't matter. I have never seen anyone that have done great things without putting effort. I have known many people that were born or that got amazing opportunities, but that lost these opportunities. And I've seen people that had almost no opportunity, but because of great effort were able to do great things. So this is a very important part. The next quality to perfect and to practice is concentration. Concentration is our ability to make our mind, to put our mind to stay where we want, to be present in the present moment, to direct our mind clearly. And it is fundamental. Without concentration, we are not able to meditate correctly. We're not able to develop our qualities deeply. We are completely lost between our distractions. So, it's fundamental to develop good concentration. And some people ask, but how do I develop concentration? We develop concentration by concentrating. How do you train in concentration? Concentrating. Then sure, there are many techniques of concentration. Through breathing, through observation, physical, mental, there are different ways of developing concentration. But we need to train. It's not something that we make our prayers, requests, and one day out of the blue we become a perfectly concentrated being. It's out of training. It's out of every day, sit down, concentrate on the breath. Every day I'm able to do a little bit more. Be able to train ourselves to listen and not to listen to other sounds, but concentrate in one sound. The more I do, the easier it becomes. So, it's another point which is actually fundamental. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have is to have a concentrated mind. The next, as we say, the last but not least, which is one of the most important of all the perfections, is wisdom. Which I'm not going to go into details now about wisdom, otherwise then we really lose lunch and dinner and maybe breakfast also. So it's better not to go into details about it right now. So what happened is that wisdom, in very few words, it means to train ourselves to relate to reality in a coherent way, in a consistent way. For example, I see that phenomena around me are impermanent. I relate to them as being impermanent. That's a way of wisdom. Not as we do, that even though we know things are impermanent, we relate to them as if they were permanent, and we get sad and we suffer when they change. It's impermanent, we accept them as being impermanent, we relate to them as being impermanent. The ultimate level of wisdom we can get by reflecting upon interdependence, by understanding how everything is always connected from different levels, by understanding that even though reality appears to us as being objective, it is actually subjective. So to see the subjective reality as subjective, to see the relative reality as relative, that's to train on wisdom. Okay? We can train during meditation and we can train outside of meditation. One of the simple things that we can do is to train ourselves by reflecting upon the law of interdependence, seeing how everything is connected, causes and conditions, parts and whole, object and observer. And by this we can reflect upon it. Is understanding that external reality does exist, but that external reality does not exist independently of the internal reality. They are interdependent. And as we move along the process of understanding this interdependence, finally we understand that there is no difference between internal reality and external reality. It's all the same. Okay? We can get to a non-dual perception of it. But we start by training ourselves in interdependence. Okay? So, just to conclude, in the prayer we say, through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, so through the practice of generosity, morality, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I reach Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So through my practice, may I develop my qualities to their maximum potential. May I eliminate completely every defilement, so that through that may I help every sentient being to get out of the cycle of suffering. Because how can I help others if I myself am completely in the middle of problems? Just to make an example, how can I help someone to develop patience if I myself am angry every 2 moments? It's not possible. So through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of every sentient being. So that's our motivation, okay? This is when it enters the concept of bodhicitta, which I'm not going to explain in details now because it's too long. But it's the concept that I want to develop my qualities in order to help others, because that's the only true way how I can help others. So as we say, in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment. It means love towards ourselves. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Love towards others. So through this, we have seen briefly the meaning of the words of this prayer. We could still go in many more details, but we don't have time for that right now. But I think it's already quite good. At least when we say the prayer, we understand the meaning. What is Buddha? What is Dharma? What is Sangha? What is taking refuge? What are the perfections? What it means to reach enlightenment? What we mean for benefit of others? We have an understanding for that. The next level, which we will see tomorrow, it's what is the visualization to do as we do the prayer, and what is the state of consciousness that we need to generate. Remember that every prayer we do, there are 3 levels. The meaning of the words, the visualization, and the state of consciousness. When we have all of this, then the practice is complete. Okay? So tomorrow we will see the visualization, briefly, and the state of consciousness that we need to generate. With that, we have the tools to do this prayer in a complete manner. And it's one of the most important prayers that we have in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. I'm sure about that. Okay? So we stop here today, and now we stop for lunch, and then we continue tomorrow morning with the end of the explanation of this prayer. Chetsun lame kutse rapten chin namkar tinle chochur gepada losan tempedre taktu ne gyurch nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen taktu delek pe Concho sumge jinge lo, concho sumge ngodrup sol, concho sumge tashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Treshidile. Omaun Tambala me Sangha Rinpoche, Kyobala me Tamcho Rinpoche, Drimbala me Gendur, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chepa Bul.